Commence primary ignition.
I'm just not the hero type, clearly.
What a piece of junk.
Enterprise, this is the captain.
I got a bad feeling about this.
It's all part of the plan.
Engage.
Welcome back to Podcast 2 for 1. I'm your host, Donovan Thompson, with my co-host,
Daniel Wingfield.
In today's episode 145 of Podcast 2 for 1. And Daniel, we're doing something we haven't done in a very long time, probably about a year since Cyberpunk came out. We're talking video games. Typically on the pod, we talk about movies and TV shows and just all the other nerdy things, but we do have a third passion, so to speak, and that is video games. And so obviously the Game Awards just dropped, and while I don't care about that so much, I thought it'd be a good time to talk about maybe just a few things from the Game Awards, maybe a couple of trailers that maybe stood out to us, and then just in general, like how the year felt in gaming, maybe what's your favorite gaming moments, and what you're looking forward to in 2023. So did you get a chance to watch some of the Game Awards?
I didn't get to watch the awards themselves. I watched a few of the trailers. After I followed them on social media a little bit while they were going on. Of course, I had no doubt Elden Ring was going to win, so that was no big surprise.
I was really pulling for God of War just because of my love for the franchise.
There was just no way. There was no way that, I mean, God of War is good, but it was just more of 2018 where Elden Ring did something new and took over the world for 2 months. Everyone was talking about Elden Ring.
Yeah, I mean, you're not wrong in terms of I expected it as well. Ultimately, I was hoping God of War to pick it. I haven't played either one. I'm holding out for Ragnarok.
Either one?
I
thought you owned 2018.
No, I haven't played Elder Ring or Ragnarok.
Okay.
Boy, I've played 2018 God of War. But I'm waiting patiently for Christmas to roll around before I play Ragnarok. So we'll see what happens, if I'm a good boy or not this Christmas. So big thing is God of War did walk away with 5 awards, more than anyone else, and then Elden Ring took the big one. Give me some, someone I've heard from Matt a little bit about Elden Ring. I've heard from you a little bit in passing. Yeah. But real quick, you've played it. Did you finally get to beat it? I know we hadn't talked about it since.
No, I haven't. So I actually just picked it up again these past few weeks. My son's been asking me to play again, so I've been playing it with him again. I'm actually down to, I think I have 2 bosses now left, only 2.
Okay.
And one of them is one of them is optional. I want to beat all the bosses just because I'd rather do that. But I could go beat the game right now and just fight the last boss and be done with it. I just want to beat this other optional boss first. I think Elden Ring is probably it's the peak form of the Dark Souls formula that we've been getting for about 10 or 12 years now. And I think it just hit on all the right cylinders at just the right time. It came in as this kind of really fresh air in terms of open world game design, in terms of how much the game holds your hand or tells you what to do or openly spells out what's going on. It felt more like it was a game made for grown-ups to play and figure it out on their own and have these kind of moments of realization or things like that on their own. But yeah, I mean, I think it's hard not to argue Elden Ring. It was the game that, when you think about video games this year, games that felt like a moment, that felt like a moment of zeitgeist, Elden Ring is it. And I think part of the benefits too is that Elden Ring's on everything, right? Elden Ring's Xbox, PlayStation, PC, and so there's just more people involved in the discussion. I just think a big kind of telling thing about Elden Ring is that I've seen countless stories. I've seen a lot of YouTubers that I even really like who have no interest in Souls games, have never played the Dark Souls, or they've tried them and really disliked the experience playing Elden Ring. And I think the things about this game that are a bit more user-friendly or a bit more a little less harsh, a little more there's a little more leeway. This game's gives you a little more grace and a little more just in general than the other games. It's an easier point of entry. It's just not quite as brutal to you in some ways. It still is, but it's it gives you some breathers too. And I think there's so many people that have played Elden Ring and been like, I finally get it, and have now gone back to the other Souls games and are enjoying them. And I think that's a really big point. I think that Elden Ring has made a lot of people that have never enjoyed Souls or even played them are now feeling like, oh, I get it, and this is awesome. You know what I mean? I think, it really feels like the people at From Software and just everything that they've got going on there are just like, they're the CD Projekt Red right now of like the 2010s or like 2015, where it's like CD Projekt Red couldn't do anything wrong with when they came out with The Witcher 3 and all that great DLC and all that free stuff for players. It was just like CD Projekt Red was the developer that everyone wanted to be and who was salivating for the next game. And right now I feel like that's From Software, and that's really because
the turntables
of Elden Ring.
How the tables are.
How the turntables.
Yeah. Oh, how the turntables.
Yeah.
Even they did have a moment on the Game Awards show where they introduced Idris Elba as a character in Phantom Liberty, which is cool, So this is interesting.
And
no, I mean,
I'll say that too. Like I actually have been dipping back into Cyberpunk as well. I'm this kind of person that plays these big giant worlds. I'll play like 60 hours in 2 weeks, like non-stop, and then I won't touch it for 2 months, and then I'll come back and beat it. That's just like I've noticed that's my pattern. Like I overload myself with it that I just get burnt out after a while, and I play it non-stop, and then I need a break, and then I come back. And I've been doing that with Cyberpunk, so I've been jumping back in. I'm trying to beat every mission before I do the just beat the game. And this is actually with my Cyberpunk Edge Runners David character. I'm still running. I still got the outfit. I'm still running the like legendary gorilla arms with the Sandevistan and like like at this point the combat is nothing. I literally freeze time and beat everyone to a pulp before it unfreezes. Like before they move, they're all dead. And I feel like a goddamn superhuman, which was really cool. And so now it's just all about just plot and listening to the quests and hearing the stories. And like, that's the only thing left in the game for me. I'm max leveled at everything. I can't level up anymore.
Well, I haven't picked it up since before the big update, and I think I want to dive back into it, and I think I may wait till Phantom Liberty comes out and do it all in one big run, like one run, and be done with it. It is interesting because we did talk about Cyberpunk Edge Runners earlier this year, and it was up for best like adaptation for like a medium from game to meet other mediums, and I was like. Well, I was like, oh, Cyberpunk's going to win. Then I saw on the list also Arcane was on there. I was like, oh, never mind. Arcane's going to win.
And you haven't watched that, right? That's fantastic as well, man.
First, like 10 minutes. I don't hear it's God tier, and I really do want to pick that up. Yeah, this will be an interesting episode too because I haven't played that many games this year, but I do have a few interesting tidbits to talk about. That's different from Donovan's regular, as I'd say. I do want to go back real quick, and Elden Ring. I understand the talk about it, and it's one of those things I may actually like that game if I played it, but I feel like it's also, I don't know, it's a big commitment, and just even playing the game. A little teaser here. The game I just finished playing was The Last of Us Part 1. It just it came out a month or so ago, and I've been slowly playing that, and I just finished it. It's great. I mean, it's still a good, it's a great remaster. It's like basically a remaster. I couldn't tell you the differences other than the graphical quality, and maybe there's some other quality of life things I'm just not remembering, but it feels like the exact same game. And the first game was great.
I believe the big thing was they kind of updated the combat to be like Last of Us 2. I think that was one thing they did. But you haven't played that, right? I've
been waiting patiently, and like it's next on the list. So I will probably play Last of Us Part 2 next, and then I'll play no matter what happens, if Donovan's a good boy or not for Christmas. I will play God of War Ragnarok third on this list here. But I've been waiting patiently Last of Us Part 2 for a long time now, just because I don't know, I had other things I wanted to get done first, but I can feel it. I can feel it on the horizon. It's closer than we've ever been. Like it's on my to-do list now. Is start Last of Us Part 2, and it's never been on the to-do list. So I'm getting there, but I do want to talk about real quick. It's interesting too, these award things where I see this a lot in the Academy Awards, but like God of War Ragnarok, it won 6 awards. It won Best Performance, it won Best Narrative, Best Score Music, Best Action Adventure, Best Audio Design, and then it won Game Award for Innovation and Accessibility, which is people who what I'm talking about.
Yeah.
And so it's always weird when you have like a movie or a game now, like they win, 5 or 6 awards, the most out of anything, but they don't win the best picture or the best.
I think it makes total sense. I mean, I think that's it illustrates the principle that you can't just add a bunch of you can't just throw money at it and make a perfect game. Like there is something more to it than just.
I mean, I don't know if that means they throw money.
Well, I'd say
more money than Elden Ring did. I mean, it feels like if they're getting
awards
awards for
more.
all. Well, either way, they don't. Well, even if I'm not sure that's a relevant point on all facets. I think it's if they're winning the best at everything. It's like if you have the best of everything and then you add the pieces up, shouldn't it be the best?
Well, the sum is not always equal to the parts. That principle is true. We see that everywhere. We see that in business. We see that in companies. That yes, you can have you take businesses or whatever. I just feel like a movie that is doing all of the technical things perfectly doesn't mean it was a compelling movie, right? Like if it's perfect shots and it's good actors and I mean, here's a good example. What was that movie that just came out with all that Christian Bale and that star-studded cast with that director?
It's Amsterdam with David O. Russell. I have a better counter argument though.
Go for it.
Revise my statement. Here's a more thing I don't understand. I can maybe understand Best Picture, but why do director say you win all these things, right? Performance, narrative, score, action, adventure, audio design. Best director went to Elden Ring, and it's sure. But the director directed all these other things. You know what I'm saying? Like it's the director directed the performance.
But he doesn't direct. You hire a guy to do your music. Some of that isn't him. But I think that just to me says the vision for what this game is, for what the director's. I guess to me that says what is the director's vision and did he execute on it? And I think at that point, then you're just kind of comparing whose vision was cooler. And that point, I think Elden Ring's the vision of what kind of game Elden Ring is as a base level, how it operates, its mechanics. And that and I know this is my opinion, but that to me, for one, is more innovative. We don't see that all the time. And listen, this isn't a bash, but Sony first party games all have a very similar level of quality. And that's a praise to them that The Last of Us, the remakes to it, the reboot of the God of Wars, they all have a similar level of pristine score, pristine mocap, perfect act. They have all of these things hitting on all cylinders, but at the same time, it all feels a little bit not that they're the same game, but there is a similar feeling to God of War and Last of Us and how it operates as a third-person action adventure and how Sony first-party games do that. And I think it's more of that what Elden Ring did, it's not like they just invented a new genre or invented something new, but they did use elements of genres that we just don't see together right now and maybe haven't seen exactly like that together before. And while God of War is a technical masterpiece, it would be very difficult to argue against any of the technical parts of that having any flaw, it is more of what we've already had recently.
Well, can I ask then, in a really short way here, I'm not disagreeing with you. I mean, part of it is I'm asking questions so you can kind of defend it, but the other thing is, what did Elden Ring push the gaming medium forward? What did it do different that other games haven't done? And now you talked about a little bit earlier.
The big thing is the open world design, right? God of War is an open world game too, so this is probably a big part of that too. And another one, Horizon Zero Dawn.
I would say it's less so than Elden Ring. Yeah,
it's less. So. It's more hub, but it has open zones that you explore.
It's
openly,
yes.
and you go back, right? You track back. You go to places more than once to do quests and stuff. It has an open world kind of design to it, even though it's not fully open world. Right. I would say that the way Elden Ring approached open worlds was there are no quest markers. There's no quest list. There is no one to tell you what to do or how to do something. It is completely no hand-holding. And I think when we've just come out of this era where we have been inundated with Assassin's Creed RPGs with Origins and Odyssey and Valhalla, which have a very similar style to open world that your Sony games do, which is like you on the screen at all times, a part of the UI is what you need to do next and where to go. And usually a dot on your compass or your map or your marker that leads you in a straight line to it, right? And like, that's not something bad that's happened necessarily on its own, but it has been like the only thing that's been happening in open world games for like the last 10 years. You know what I mean? Like Fallout games have been doing it, Elder Scrolls games have been doing it, Ubisoft has been like very pretty egregious with it, and then Sony games do it. But like I think the difference again between like what Sony games are doing and what like Ubisoft and these other people are doing is that like Sony is firing on every cylinder when it comes to casting and acting and directing those actors and audio and cinematography. Like it's perfect, and Ubisoft is not that. Ubisoft is all like, B tier effort on all of those areas, and Sony does not do B tier effort, and I think that's a huge credit to them. But I think so. When I think of Elden Ring, I think what it did is it said that like these ideas that the industry has had about game design in terms of open world, that you have to tell the player where to go at all times. You have to make sure they're not lost. You have to make sure all of your content is found by every single player. So there has to be signposting to anything cool in the game so that nobody misses anything, right? That has been the ideology of open worlds, and Elden Ring said, fuck that. We're just going to give you a giant open world. We're going to say, go defeat the Elden Lord. That's your admission. That's your quest marker. That's not on the screen anywhere. The character's going to keep saying it. But
is that different than the previous Souls games? Like, I don't know.
It's different in that the previous Souls games, none of them were open world. The previous Souls games were Metroidvanias, right? You have a linear path. Sometimes you can backtrack to certain areas, but it's almost all of those are just linear. Like you have a fortress, or what I'm trying to think, a level, whatever. Yeah. You go in, it's linear, you beat it, you don't come back. That's Bloodborne, that's Dark Souls, that's Sekiro especially. Sekiro's especially linear. So this is the first time we've seen this formula. And it makes more sense in that formula, right? It's not as big a deal not to give signposts or tell the player right where to go when there's a straight line. There's only one way to go, right? That doesn't seem that like crazy to do. But when you give them one of the biggest open worlds I've ever experienced, both in terms of just mile size, like just acreage, but then also in terms of like depth and like the amount of secret things that are just everywhere. There's always something to find if you go exploring, and all of it's optional except for like 3 or 4 bosses. You can beat the game in like 20 hours if you know what you're doing and you just beat the necessary bosses and move on. You know what I mean? Wow. So it's just, I think that it's not that it didn't reinvent any wheels. It just took a formula that they invented, the Souls-like games, which has rogue-like elements to it, right? Kind of like you go on runs, you restart, you lose stuff if you don't get it back or whatever. So they took that, which they have perfected, I would say. The recent games they've made like that are just everything that they would want to make out of that. And they said, let's put this in open world. And it's one of those things where you look at it on paper and you're like, I don't know if that's going to work. But then it worked. It worked so well that everyone is now saying, I think it worked so well that it made everyone realize they didn't actually like how the other open worlds were handling it, was kind of a lot of what the response to it was. It was like, not only is this good, it feels refreshing, you know what I mean, compared to what we've been getting. And I think that's that. And then I think just the fact that it was probably the most played game this year, if I had to guess, in terms of like a single period, like concurrent numbers or whatever, like the amount of people that played Elden Ring, that flocked to it, the amount of hype that was around it, it reminded me more of like Breath of the Wild when that came out, or like when the first God of War came out, when God of War 2018 came out and like knocked everyone's socks off because that was innovative at the time, right? Like the big part of that was like, we hadn't seen God of War like that. We hadn't seen a ton of first party Sonys like that. And that was one of the reasons like everyone like fell over themselves giving it praise, and with good reason. But that's my 2 cents.
Yeah, no, I mean, again, I'm coming from a place who typically don't do those kind of games, and also I just and I haven't played that many games this year, and it kind of leads into a few things. One, just this blanket statement. I'm not to talk about this too much, but I feel like this year has been kind of lighter than other years. We've had some bangers like God of War and Elden Ring, and and some other big games too come out. But I feel like overall, it feels like it's it's been lighter, and like Xbox really hasn't had anything huge this year come out at all. That's like first party, that's exclusive, really, and that's big, like Halo or something.
First party,
and it's like, we're how many? Are we 2 years now into this generation of consoles?
Yeah,
and we've had a few. I mean, Sony's done at least one,
per year,
big game.
Even though last year was a remake, technically.
Yeah,
they had two big games this year in Horizon, and I keep forgetting about Horizon. But again, Horizon. Another point about Elden Ring is that it replicated what Breath of the Wild did to Horizon 1, which was Horizon 1 came out and then Breath of the Wild came out right after, and no one talked about Horizon ever again. This is the exact same thing that happened, except it was Elden Ring. I feel bad for it. But
you said the only one was a remake last year. What are you talking about?
Last of Us Part 1 was their only first-party game, I think, for PS5.
That was this year. That was a month ago. Last of Us Part 2 was out last year.
Okay, that one. Okay, Last of Us Part 2.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah.
Which is pretty big.
It's a new game.
I think
it won
game of the year, I believe. I mean, like, I feel like we're kind of in a drought. I mean, like, real quick, what's your most anticipated game of next year? I'm just kind of looking at the list.
It's easily Starfield.
There's Starfield, which is who knows when that's coming out. They said March. Is that what we're doing now?
They said first quarter 2023.
Okay,
so that would be
Diablo
like up
4,
to April.
Street Fighter 6, Resident Evil 4 remake, which I will be on my list. Alan Wake 2 is a big deal for me.
Yeah.
I'm not a big Street Fighter guy, but Street Fighter 6 comes out. There's the Dead Space remake, which I do want to play. I love the first two.
Sure.
And I didn't play the Callisto Protocol yet, which I want to.
Yeah.
I haven't got that far yet. I was also, of course, I saw it a minute ago. Suicide Squad Kill the Justice League, which we got confirmed that Kevin Conroy is going to
that's another game that came out this year was that Gotham Knights.
Gotham Knights. Yeah, it did not land. I wonder what their next move is. Yeah,
I'm looking forward to like a month where I can pick it up for like $10. I'm going to play it just to like play through the story.
Oh, I do too. I mean, I still want to play it. Even Arkham,
Origins.
Arkham Origins. I mean, it's still not a bad game. It's not as polished as the other ones, but it's not a bad game. Like it's got a good story to it actually. But it really feels like some of the heavy hitter Starfield, Zelda.
I mean, Starfield and Zelda to me are like. I mean, Zelda's right under Starfield. I mean, I love Zelda and I love Breath of the Wild and I can't wait. I hope to if this Zelda doesn't have breakable weapons, it will be like 10 times more anticipated for me. But if breakable weapons are back, I'm gonna be like, okay, fine, I'm still gonna play it. But gosh, damn it, because that really is like one of the most hated things about that Breath of the Wild one for me. But
maybe they'll change that. It looks another thing here is Final Fantasy 16, which is a PS5 exclusive.
Oh yeah. That's not that's not really my alley.
I've never been a Final Fantasy guy, but every time there's a trailer for one, when the new one comes out, like I think it was 15 or 4, maybe it was 15. Like they had the Stand By Me remake song in there, and I was like, man, I want to play this game. And even watching the trailer today for 16, I was like, it sounds like the antithesis of like all the kind of games I like in terms of combat and that kind of stuff. But I'm always intrigued.
Unless they're probably going to do. I bet they're going to do that hybrid combat system like they did in the 7 remake, where it's kind of like hybrid action adventure.
Which I do want to play. Yeah, so I'm hoping that's kind of. I might pick up 15 here pretty soon. Actually, Suicide Squad. I mean, Rocksteady.
Yeah, I mean,
they don't make bad games yet.
No, they don't. They don't. So I'm interested for sure.
When does that come out? Suicide Squad. I think it comes out.
Do we have a date?
There might not be a hard date. I'm looking.
Jedi Survivor, big one.
Ooh, May 26th is Suicide Squad. Yeah, Jedi Survivor. That comes out pretty soon. March.
Yeah, like February or March. Okay.
Yeah, I watched the trailer for it. I think yesterday. And I was like, whoa, it's coming out in like a couple months, and that would be good too. I really hope they kind of fine tune the content. Yeah, he always felt kind of like stiff. It was a stiff kind of.
I agree. No, it wasn't. They were trying to do Dark Souls, but they couldn't get anywhere near what From Software makes their combat.
I'm kind of hoping they
pale comparison.
hope they kind of take those things out and just kind of go for more narrative, just action adventure, Uncharted kind of thing.
I mean, I want to like. I would love for there to be From Software making a Star Wars lightsaber game. Like that would just. I want a game because what I love about From Software combat is that the skill ceiling is so high, and once you nail it, you feel like a god. Like just rolling around people, dodging at just the right time. Just like when you're in the zone, it feels so good to be in the zone in their combat because it's not button mashing. You're having to think and you're reacting, and it's just like. I feel like I'm like it's a pretty high skill ceiling to get good at that, you know? And just to give me that with a lightsaber, fuck. Like you got like moments of it in Jedi Fallen Order where like sometimes you'd get a good combo or do something to like do the finishing kill and it felt cool, but like I want it to feel like perfectly precise and like I want there to be good combat. Like that is important to me for at least.
Yeah, I'm really hoping that they fine tune it for Survivor because it
needs some
one of the
polish.
things.
Yes.
Yeah, I didn't feel I wasn't a huge fan of it. I like more kind of God of War kind of action where it's really flowy and it feels kind of more. Well, that's more button mashing in a way.
Well, I would say though
really,
that like
it more Devil May Cry.
When From Software does their combat, it feels flowy, but it works like the combat in Jedi Fallen Order. I agree. I could never get into a flow with Jedi Fallen Order combat. It always felt frustrating. Like it felt like always inconsistent when the timing was hitting the buttons or when like the timing of the counters were, or just like I never got in a groove with it, and I beat the game. And so like that to me is saying like they tried to do From Software and failed pretty hard. Because I've played a lot of Dark Souls and From Software games, and I think pretty decent at it. Like I've played it enough to like know the style and know the thing, and I couldn't ever get good at this one. That means it's probably not as much me as it was like the system is like not precise and not great. So yeah, I agree. I think the combat is an area where they really got to beef it up. And I think also like in exploration, which I think they've hinted at that, there's going to be more secrets, more stuff to find. Like there was not a lot of reward for exploring things in Fallen Order. Like you just got like a pink tunic sometimes, or like a different skin for BB, or like for your buddy BD1, you know, like that's all you got for exploring, which it doesn't feel, very rewarding.
Yeah, I mean, look at the list. I think my most anticipated. I may download Starfield because it's Game Pass, and so why not? And may try it out, and then I'll let you finish it for me. But I think just look at the list. Funny enough, two of them are remakes: Resident Evil 4 and Dead Space. Like Resident Evil 1 and 2 remake, 2 and 3 remake are just like god tier, and so especially 2. And so, like, man, if they can do 4 in this, like the way they've been doing this other ones, like it's going to be next level. So that's when I'm like, I get this. I know, like, there's some games like I'm going to sit down and like for a couple of days and play. Dead Space 1 and Dead Space 2 are like perfect games in my opinion. And I think Dead Space 1, if they can, if it's just even just a polish of the first one, it'll be worth playing. But it looks like they're really trying to make it a full remaster.
It's like a remake, right? Not
remake. Yeah, exactly. And I think the big one for me that's a new game that's coming out is Alan Wake 2, because Alan Wake holds a special place in my heart. When the first one come out, and it's like I replayed the first one again in the last
Controls
year.
On Game Pass, I think, still.
I know. I mean, I want to play that one. I just haven't. There's so many games I do want to play. I'm just so behind and just don't do it. But Alan Wake, I think, will be one that I'm like, okay, I'm going to get my traditional 24-pack of Mountain Dew, my Cool Ranch Buffalo chips, and then everyone don't talk to me for 24 hours. That's that kind of day. So I think that's kind of the three I'm looking at. But before we get off, I want to ask you, what's your favorite gaming moment or of the year? Like, what's the thing that stood out to you in terms of gaming? It could be a past game. It could be, a game from this year. But what's the thing that you're like, man, this is why I game?
Yeah, I mean, I think Elden Ring had a few of those, I think, for sure. I mean, like, there's this one moment in Elden Ring, you may have heard it anecdotally from other people, is that, you're exploring this area, and you've kind of, like, explored it for a while, probably 10, 15 hours in, maybe, and, like, you found different things. You found, like, little elevators that go down to, like, little tombs, like, little mini dungeons, and you get stuff, and, like, you're kind of used to this flow. And then you find this one elevator that looks like every other elevator, you've used, like a stone elevator that goes into the ground. And you get on it and it just goes, and you're like, man, it's a long elevator. And it just keeps going and it just keeps going. And then eventually you like kind of come out of these cliffs and you look up and there's like, you're looking up into like stars, but you're underground. And then you look and there's this giant like fortress slash like new area to explore, just randomly out of nowhere, just exploring. And it was just kind of this, and like immediately you go down there and you get your ass whooped, and so you like probably leave and come back later. But it was just this moment of like, what else? Like just at that moment, it's like, what is this game I'm playing? Like, I've never like this doesn't happen. You don't just like, you know, it's like the secret stuff in Mario where you can like find extra worlds and stuff. Except it's like happening all the time. There's another one in that game where you're kind of looting this area. There's chests right all over this world that have items and all sorts of stuff, like really good items, like new weapons or new armor sets or new shields, like even like new powers and all these kinds of stuff. So you're like always opening chests. So you open this one, it's pretty early in the game, and all that comes out is black mist or like mist smoke. And it goes like you've been trapped or something, and it just teleports you to the other side of the world into this mine. And it has these hella strong enemies, and the only way to get out is to run. Like you can't beat them at this level. There's no possible way, because you're probably like level 5 or 6. And you get out of the mine, you're like, where am I? And you're in the middle of hell. Like you're looking around, and like everything is literally rotting. You're like in this area. It's called like what is it? The rot. I can't remember the name right now. Crimson Rot, maybe? Is that what it is? But it's like this whole area is literally like decaying. And you just like were opening a chest in the middle of this like green pastures kind of medieval setting. And you wake up in hell. You know what I mean? It was just like these moments where you were just like, I never saw that coming. And like it floored me in terms of like, that was just the surprise of it, or just like the, you know, obviously we didn't see it coming. But then like what you surprised me with was like just like, fucking amazing. Like, it wasn't like you surprised me with like a cool new, you know, cosmetic item. It was like you surprised me with like 20 more hours of exploration, or like 3 new bosses, or like just these ways that just felt like, I don't know, just really like playing that game for the first time and discovering all of these things for the first time. Because, you know, I'm playing in release, like there's no guides really out yet, or if there are, I'm not using them, right? So you're like, and you're not really seeing much online. So like just all of these like, you know, genuine moments of exploration and genuine moments of surprise, and like I never saw that coming, and then just genuine moments of like, fuck yeah, I finally beat that boss that took me 10 times, and like now I've got like an adrenaline rush like no other, and I'm gonna keep going. You know what I mean? Like I think that game, and I played it a lot with my son. My son sat there with me and like giggled every time I died, and that was really special. I mean, outside of that, like I beat Mass Effect Legendary Edition this year, which had been on my list for a while just to beat that trilogy. I enjoyed that. Again, dipping back into Cyberpunk, and then kind of towards the end of the year, I've been playing a lot more Gotham Knight. So I'm kind of like probably a decent halfway through that game by now. And I'm like 70% progress in like the main plot, but I've got a lot of side stuff still to do, and like side content and DLC.
And you've never finished that one?
No, I kept kind of bouncing off of it every time I'd try before. I don't know exactly what the issue was, but this last time it clicked, and I started. I feel like I'm still getting good at the combat. I feel like, you know, it is button mashy, but there's a skill to doing it right and doing it cool.
There is.
You know, and especially like with the gadget combos and like and when the game starts throwing you with like all these different types of enemies that you have to like approach differently, it can be difficult. Like I've gotten my ass whooped a few times on some like group fights, you know. But I think
always the big thing on that is like, okay, here's the like 20 enemies, but like I know I'm gonna whip their ass, but am I gonna whip their ass in the coolest way possible?
Right. Like, you know, doing like every like gadget, quick fire gadget combos, and just like all that stuff.
Because you want to feel like Batman, and you know Batman's gonna do the coolest thing possible. So it's like, well, you want to live up to the legend, you know? So,
exactly. And there's this game's big. There's so much to do. Like even just the minor like knocking out the towers or destroying the bombs, or like, and then just like there's quite a bit of, I know I'm playing it with the season pass, so I've got all the DLC, but there feels like a lot of just like side content, like stuff to do as well. So I'm enjoying it a lot.
It's awesome. I mean, I can't think of that many games I've played. I dabbled a little bit in the TMNT, which I think is Matt's favorite game of the year. But I dabbled in that one, and I really enjoyed playing it. The small bit I did play. But I think, my biggest revelation this year, I wouldn't say revelation because it's still hard for me to wrap my brain around. But when someone asks me, "Have you played any games this year?" I might go to it. It's like, no, I really haven't played anything. I played Last of Us Part One. I just beat
You
that.
played
But then,
some Halo. You're
well,
pretty active, right?
I was gonna say I was like, well, think about it. Like, well, I've probably put in like a healthy amount of like 200, 300 hours of Halo.
Sure.
Like,
Sure.
I bet I have, which is astronomical for me. If I'm putting in more than like 10 hours, 15 hours on a narrative game, I'm like,
Yeah.
Jesus Christ, this thing is long. But then I have let time slip away into the Halo universe. I got a group online, and we consistently were playing every weekend for a while. We just played again last weekend, first time in like a month or so. But I've always been like, I only narrative games, only want to play story driven stuff like God of War, Last of Us, those kind of things. And I've really dipped my toe into multiplayer this year, and I got to say it's fun going through battle passes, season passes, what have you,
Yeah.
and getting armors and also I don't think any of us are in this two out of our group are 4 people, only 2 of them in the same state. So there's 3 states, 4 people.
Sure.
And so it's connecting all 3 of us. And
Yeah.
and even then we're still relatively close state wise, but it just kind of gives credence to the idea, something that everyone's known for a while, and I've known but I didn't really experience, is that you can literally be anywhere in the world and still play with your friends. And
Yeah.
I think that, to me, that's been really special. And we experienced this last week, I believe. We played
Yeah.
a little bit of Chivalry 2. It was just
Yeah.
it was just fun. It was a fun multiplayer game. We got to just kind of hang out for an hour or two and do that. And so that was kind of my, I've been laughing my ass off playing Halo and everything else, and just getting to connect with people that I haven't talked to in a long time.
Sure.
And I think that is the thing I find special. I do look back on the year and the years previous, and I'm like, man, there's some games I really want to play that I haven't yet, like Deathloop, and like I still own. I haven't even started yet, and
I downloaded it.
It's on Game Pass now. Yeah. And there's things like that. There's only a certain games that come out, and I'm like, it don't matter how many years pass, like I have to play this game. And one of those is Last of Us Part 2, mainly because not because I love Last of Us Part 1 or anything, but just because Naughty Dog did it, and Naughty Dog's like my favorite developer because of Uncharted and Jack and Daxter. But God of War Ragnarok is like more so probably than Uncharted. Like if God of War is coming out, like I'd have to play it the first 12 hours it was released.
Yeah. Well, I would say
but
God of War's got the combat that Uncharted doesn't. That is really good, satisfying combat. I mean, the axe throwing and the recalling it, it just feels really good to play.
And the thing that I've always felt throughout all of them, like I've always loved the puzzles and which are not complicated, but the puzzles, the combat, and the bosses are always the thing that's like the fun part. But I've always loved the story of like Kratos and like the Greek mythologies and everything, and God of War, and I thought they were all great in all their different ways.
Sure.
And of course, I feel like everyone come on board with 2018 God of War and was like, this is whatever, real storytelling, whatever.
Well, they aged up the storytelling a bit, I would say.
Yeah, I mean, it's more personal for Kratos. It's in terms of like you're seeing different sides other than just pure rage, and hate.
Yeah.
You're seeing caringness and those things, and like I think there's plenty of story in those other ones that's great, but it's more plot, not character. And now it's character and plot. So I think I'm really excited for Ragnarok, and I'm surely only a couple weeks away. So we'll see what happens. But yeah, I gave, for me, multiplayer Halo Infinite was a big thing. It out there
turning into a multiplayer bro, right? When are you going to go to Call of Duty and just give up? Just give in.
I don't know. I do want to play. I haven't played Modern Warfare 1 yet, the new one, but I do want to play Modern Warfare 2.
If you ever want to play some Warzone, that's Warzone 2, it's free to download. It is like 100 gigs, but it's free to download.
It's huge. Yeah, that's what I hear. I do want to check it out, just to kind of see. And like Matt's been playing a lot of Fortnite lately, which he's never been a Fortnite guy, but they just released the Terminator, Marcus Phoenix from Gears of War, and Deku from My Hero Academia. It's like literally my favorite. Like all in the same like 2 weeks.
If you guys want to play Fortnite, I'll play Fortnite with you. I don't want to, but I'll do it if y'all end up wanting to squad up and play some like quads or something.
I never played it. It sounds horrible, but I want to. I like the characters.
It's the thing of like, if this game came out when we were 10, it'd be our favorite game in the world.
Oh, I know.
And
I
it
know that.
is-
I understand that.
The style of game, I like battle royales. I mean, it directly copied one of my favorite games at the time, which was PUBG. I loved PUBG.
Right.
I spent a lot of time with that. So the formula works. I just don't like the Code of Paint or and I think in the past, like I think they even have like no build modes now where you can play without the building, which that's what I would want to do. I don't want to play with the building because it always just felt like the people that were beating me were just building a house over me and not shooting me.
Yeah. Right. Yeah.
Yeah.
So I thought about checking it out. I probably won't. Anyway, Daniel, how can listeners write into us?
Listeners, you can write into bit.ly and let us know what you thought of the gaming landscape this year in 2022. Was there anything that was really important to you that we missed? I know there were some indie games that came out this year that were pretty well liked. Inscription is one I heard of. I think Cult of the Lamb. Hades was the last year. That wasn't this year. But yeah, let us know.
Hades 2 was announced. Yeah.
That's right. That's true. That was another cool. And, just pausing here, I'm very interested in Armored Core, which could be what it seems like Souls, but you're in a mech. And I'm like, cool.
Did you ever
Sign
play
me up.
the old Armored
No.
Core games? No. Okay. See, like I remember Armored Core, I think 3 and 4
You played them?
back in the PS2 days. Yeah, Matt, they're always at Matt's house. And so
Were
I
they
haven't talked
PS2
to him about-
exclusives?
I think they were. I'm pretty sure they were. Don't quote
This
me
one
on
isn't.
that. But
This one's on everything.
yeah, I will say this. Here's a game that actually, I don't know. I don't think it comes out next year. It probably comes out the year after. It's called Judas. And it's Keith Levine. It's the guy who made BioShock. It looks like It looks
Yes.
If you
Yes,
told me it
yes.
was BioShock 4, I've been like, yeah, it looks like BioShock 4. Like exactly like BioShock.
Right.
So like
right,
to me,
right.
I'm like, well, that might be game of the year when it comes out because it looks good. It's
We'll see,
it's
yeah.
like BioShock in space. Yeah.
I mean,
So-
I'm up for more BioShock for sure.
Yeah.
But
All
yeah,
three of those are great games.
bit.ly/2formail. Let us know what you think.
And if you can't hit us up on our Bentley, you can always list on your favorite game of the year and your most anticipated game of next year in the comments below on youtube.com/241studios, the best place to consume the content. Again, check out our last week's episode where we talk about Andor, the whole entire season. And then next week, we are talking about Avatar, The Way of Water. Don't count out James Cameron because it looks like it's going to make a lot of money.
Yeah, I saw some early reviews. It's hanging in like low 80s right now on Rotten Tea, but last time I looked. We'll see how.
Yeah.
It wasn't based on many reviews, though. I think today they're just starting to trickle out. So it'll be. I'm honestly much more interested in like the discourse and reaction to the movie than I am the movie itself. Like
I think so. Yeah.
I could almost go without seeing the movie and just like eat my popcorn watching people argue about it and
Yeah.
especially like honestly the most entertaining version of this is like everyone kind of thinks it's not great and then James Cameron like gets pissed, or something like that.
No.
I don't know. I could just see that. Like,
it would
anyway,
hurt me.
It just feels dramatic.
I want the opposite. I want I want to make $3 billion, and I want James Cameron to like just sit there on a throne made out of gold.
He
and
has
money.
a big enough ego already, from the
Yeah,
stories
but-
you hear about him.
But rightfully so. It's like when
You're right.
When you keep making gold, you get to sit on gold.
You're right. To be fair, he has a lot of reason to believe in himself. At the same time, I don't think he needs another one. So I think he's got enough ego and confidence, and like I just think the more interesting version of events is to me
want it to fail,
is
though.
more
You don't want the
dramatic.
movie to
I don't want it to fail. I want it to do okay and him to hate it. That's what I want.
No. The thing is, I first of all, I don't see a world where it makes more than Avatar 1. We'll talk about this more in a couple of weeks, but I don't think
we're
it'll
seeing
make
this
more than
movie in
Avatar
4
1.
days.
Yeah, I don't think it'll make more than that, but I do think it will do. It could be the number one movie of the year. It could beat out Top Gun, which is 1.5 billion. And I think if it does that with the climate we're in, with the 10-year gap between Avatar then and now, that is a resounding success. And it's also open. It's open up in China. They just announced today Avatar 1 is re-released in China again. And so there's a chance that will push past 3 billion in like a couple weeks.
Yeah.
The first one ever. So we will see. So we'll see. I'm very curious as well, mainly for that 3D experience because it's going to be a gorgeous looking movie. I can at least guarantee that. Anyway, Daniel, it was a pleasure talking games with you. Hopefully next year I'll have played more games so I can talk to you about more games. and hopefully next year we have some bangers. And this again, I felt this year felt light. Hopefully next year doesn't feel that way. And also maybe
It doesn't look like
announce
it
more
on the
stuff.
schedule. Yeah.
As of right now, no, it does not. Even though most of them like remakes, or not all of them, or remakes or sequels. Unfortunately,
All the games sequels. There's a lot of sequels.
a lot of sequels. Starfield feels like the
Hollywood's
only
got
one
a
that's
sequel
not
problem
sequel.
too. We've all got sequel problems.
That's true. Anyway, my name is Donovan Thompson,
I'm Daniel Wingfield.
and we have spoken.